Good morning, everyone.
Good morning, Rabbi.
We are learning Mishna Yevamos, Parak Tesvav, chapter 15, and today is Mishna Beis. Now, Mishna Beis is a continuation from yesterday's Mishnah Aleph, where the Mishnah tells us that the Chachamim, the sages, actually approved certain lenient forms of evidence regarding a woman's ability to remarry when she says her husband died. And the Mishnah mentioned yesterday that as long as the situation is that there is no major conflict between husband and wife, as we explained yesterday, between this husband and wife, and where she claims he died was not an area of war, that she's not saying that she saw him fall in battle, then in those situations, the Mishnah said, if she comes to the basin and she says her husband's dead, then we accept that as evidence like two witnesses, because a woman is very strongly penalized when she remarries, not based on two witnesses, and her husband shows up, and also the fact that, she could be proven a liar if he shows up. And therefore, this is the basis to say that the woman can be believed to say her husband died. Now, this next Mishnah really shows us that at one point in time, this idea was a machlekes, was an argument, or at least it was limited, and when it was accepted. Beis Hillel say, Lo yishamanu ela b'va min hakotzer. We only heard this, meaning this whole halacha, this whole law, that we say that a woman testifying with her husband's death should be believed, is only when she comes from the harvest, u'ba'isa Medina, and in the same country, u'kamaisa shahaya, and like the way the story happened. Now, what that means is like this. The starting point of this whole enactment of the Chachamim to allow a woman to be believed that her husband died was based on a specific story. A group of people who went to harvest wheat, and one of them was bitten by a poisonous snake and he died. And at the end of the day, the only one who realized or saw that he died was his wife. Anybody else working there didn't seem to realize it, or didn't see, or they didn't see it. Didn't see him die. She's the one who saw. Everybody else missed it. And she came to Bezdin and she told what happened. Bezdin went out and investigated, and it was true. It was true what she said. So here you had a situation where you had a woman knew her husband died. She was 100% correct about what she said, and the only one who knew about it was her. No one else took notice of it somehow. And therefore the Chachamim saw the need that we can't just rely on two witnesses to say the man died, that we have to accept lenient forms of evidence in order to allow the woman to be able to marry if her husband actually died, even though there's no two witnesses. So Beis Hillel's point is like this. The story so the whole basis of this enactment, the whole basis of this decision, let's call it with the Chachamim, was based on this story. Therefore, Beis Hillel says, it's got to be like that situation. What is that situation? Now, the wording is when she comes from a harvest and in that same country. Beis Hillel's point was, it doesn't have to specifically happen from a harvest. That doesn't have to be. But it has to be that everybody that's in the same country. It has to be in a place where the Bezdin and where she's coming to claim that her husband died, it's all in the same country. So basically, it's all in the same place where she's really taking a big chance of saying he's dead if he's not, because it's the same country. So here it is, the same country. The guy can show up if he's really alive. Those are the circumstances where the Chachamim accepted this more lenient form of evidence. But in the case of how the first Mishnah laid it out, was that they both went to Medina Sayam. They went to a distant land, and then she comes back, and she tells us that he's dead. Beis Hillel say that is not where the Chachamim allowed this to happen. This is not where they accepted this kind of evidence. Meaning, Beis Hillel says you got to take the story you got to take the basis of this decision of the Chachamim and say that the Chachamim made it in this kind of circumstance, but not in one that is, so to speak, no pun intended, further away. Meaning where the point is the evidence is not as strong, you cannot say that the Chachamim allowed it there. That was Beis Hillel's opinion. Which means Beis Hillel in this case was taking the more stringent view. Amru lahen Beis Shammai. Beis Shammai said to them, no. Achas haba min hakotzer, whether she came from the harvest. Now harvest, kotzer means harvesting of wheat. V'achas haba min hazesim. Or let's say she came from picking olives. V'achas haba min habatzer. Or she came from where they were picking grapes. V'achas haba min medinas hayam. And the same thing applies if she comes from a foreign country. Beis Shammai's argument was, look, the story there was harvesting wheat. You're not telling me that it has to be that specific kind of case. You agree that if she came from that they were picking olives, they were picking grapes, you would agree there that if she came from that situation, we would accept her testimony. We would say, oh, it has to be like the original case. Therefore, Beis Shammai said so too regarding whether it's the same country or not. We don't say that it has to be the same country. Meaning, according to Beis Shammai's arguments like this, Beis Hillel is saying, look, there is reason to say when she comes from Medinas Hayam, from a far off country, to believe her. Like we said yesterday, she has the penalties if the guy shows up alive. There's the embarrassment that comes if the guy shows up. That applies whether it's from the same country or not. Beis Hillel say though, the Chachamim wanted stronger evidence in order to allow this. How do you know that? Because it's supposed to be similar to the original basis of what happened. Beis Shammai say, look, the original basis doesn't tell you that it has to be the exact same thing. It has to be the exact same story. It doesn't have to be from wheat, which is where that story happened. It can be from other circumstances also. And therefore, you don't have to say that it's only based on a reason to say it has to be similar to the original enactment. And the same way, it doesn't have to be the exact same kind of case, story where she's coming from. It doesn't have to be the same country either. Why the Chachamim talk about the case of harvesting, which happened to be in the same country, because that was where it happened. The Chachamim only spoke in the present, meaning they told you what the story was. That was the story. You're not going to change the story. That was the story. So when they said the enactment is based on that story, that's what it was based on. But not because we have to keep exactly to those details. And therefore, Chazru Beis Hillel, Beis Shammai. At the end, Beis Hillel changed their decision, and they decided to follow Beis Shammai's opinion that it doesn't have to be the same country. She be coming from a different country, and therefore our first Mishnah is according to all opinions. So too, it is forbidden to speak rechilas in a backhanded, in a tricky way. You know someone who already suffered some kind of damage from a friend, and they're already in a quarrel between each other because of it. And for some reason, you want to actually, to stoke the fires again. You want to get things going here. Things are getting quiet, and you want to hear more. You want more action for whatever reason. But you want to make sure that nobody realizes what you're doing. And therefore, what you do is you kind of just mention in passing, what that person had done to him previously. And let's say he mentions, oh, I remember when this and this happened to you. You don't, of course, mention who did it to you, but you mention, I remember when that happened. And you're kind of like, talking innocently about just something that happened, as if you don't know, and it's as if you don't know who did it. By reminding him of the story, now the person who you're reminding about it gets upset again about it. And basically, because of that, Stokes thinks he gets upset about it again, he gets hurt about it again, and it has the potential of leading to problems. So again, you went ahead, I didn't say anybody, I didn't say who did it, I just went ahead, I just, reminded him of something that happened to him. But if the point is by doing so, he now remembers who did it to him, and that creates again the animosity between them, that would be completely forbidden to do. That is rechilas 100%. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you, Rabbi. I didn't get the fruit.